Hi, welcome to English Journey Adventures. Today's story begins with a city dream, a rich house, and a locked room. Listen and follow. This is I worked as a maid and found a secret room. My name is Ana Vega. I was 19 when I moved to the city with one brown suitcase, $80, and a dream that sounded too big for my small town. I wanted to sing. Not only in my bedroom. Not only at church on Sunday. I wanted real lights, real music, and one chance to be heard. My mother, Marisol, kissed my forehead at the bus station. She placed a small silver necklace in my hand and said, "Keep your voice safe." I laughed because I thought she meant my singing voice. Later, I understood she meant something else. The city was louder than I imagined. Buses cried at every corner. People walked fast, like the ground was moving under them. For 3 weeks, I looked for work during the day and stood outside music schools at night, reading posters I could not afford. One rainy afternoon, a woman at an employment office looked at my clean shoes and tired face. She said, "A family needs a live-in domestic worker. Food, room, and weekly pay." The house belonged to Victor Salazar, a famous music producer. His name was on old records, talent shows, and the shiny building downtown with black glass windows. I knew his name because my mother used to turn off the radio whenever his most famous song played. The song was called City Morning. Everyone loved it. People sang it at weddings, restaurants, and bus stops. My mother never sang one word of it. The Salazar house stood behind tall iron gates, with white stone steps and windows that looked down at the street like cold eyes. Mrs. Salazar opened the door. She was elegant and quiet, with gold bracelets that made small sounds when she moved. She did not ask about my dream. She asked if I could clean silver, wash silk, and keep quiet when guests came. I said yes because the rain had entered my shoes. My room was small and clean. It was beside the laundry room, with one narrow bed and a window that faced the back wall. On my first morning, Clara, the head housekeeper, gave me a list of rules. Do not use the front stairs. Do not enter the studio without permission. Do not touch Mr. Salazar's papers. Then she pointed to a dark wooden door at the end of the second-floor hallway. And never open that room. What room is it? I asked. Clara looked toward the kitchen, where Mrs. Salazar was speaking on the phone. Then she lowered her voice. A room where old problems sleep. I thought she was being dramatic. Rich houses always had strange rules. The work was hard. I washed sheets, cleaned bathrooms, polished floors, and carried trays at parties where famous people forgot I was standing near them. Sometimes guests talked about singers like they were dresses in a store. Her voice sells. His story sells better. When they said these things, I touched the silver necklace under my uniform and remembered my mother's warning. One afternoon, Victor held auditions in the glass studio behind the garden. A young singer's voice broke, and Victor only said, "Next." That night, after the house became quiet, I practiced singing very softly in the laundry room. The machines covered my voice. Victor came down the back stairs while I was folding towels. He stopped when he heard me. "Who taught you that song?" he asked. My hands froze. I had been singing a small melody my mother sang when I was sick as a child. "My mother," I said. His face changed for only 1 second. Then he smiled like a door closing. "Your mother has good taste." After that, I noticed things. Mrs. Salazar watched me when I hummed. Clara became nervous near the second-floor hallway. 2 days later, Mrs. Salazar asked where my family lived. Her eyes were sharp. "San Miguel," I said. Many girls come from small towns, she said. My mother came here once, I answered. Before I was born. She looked toward the second-floor hallway. Many people came here once. That night, I called my mother and asked if she knew Victor Salazar. She became quiet. Why are you asking about him, she said. I work in his house. The line filled with her breathing. Then she said, Anna, find another job. I laughed nervously. Mama, jobs do not fall from the sky. But her silence stayed with me. Then came the night of the dinner party. There were 12 guests, 5 courses, and too many glasses. Victor introduced a young singer as the next voice of the city. During dinner, someone asked him about city morning. He raised his glass and said, that song found me when I was young and hungry. Everyone laughed warmly. From the kitchen door, I saw Mrs. Salazar lower her eyes. Near midnight, one guest spilled red wine on Mrs. Salazar's white carpet. Clara sent me upstairs for clean cloths from the storage closet. As I passed the forbidden door, I heard music. It was not loud. It was not from a speaker. It was a weak, old sound, like a voice trapped inside a box. I stopped breathing. The woman behind the door was singing my mother's sickbed melody. Then the melody changed into the first line of City Morning, the famous song my mother always refused to hear. My hand reached for the door before my mind agreed. It was locked. I should have walked away. Instead, I saw a small brass key on the hallway carpet. The key turned with one soft click. The room smelled of dust, paper, and old wood. There was a piano, a wall of records, and a tape recorder on a table. The tape was still turning. On the white label, someone had written, Marisol Vega. Original voice. 1998, my mother's name. Behind the recorder was a metal cabinet. Inside were notebooks, photographs, and yellow papers tied with string. In one photograph, my mother stood in the same room. She wore a plain work dress and held a broom. Beside her stood young Victor Salazar with his hand on a microphone. I opened a notebook. The first page said, Songs by Marisol Vega. Under it, in my mother's handwriting, were the words of City Morning. Not almost the same words. The exact words. At the bottom, another sentence had been written in black ink, all rights transferred to Salazar Music. My mother's signature was below it, but the letters looked wrong. The hallway floor made a sound behind me. I turned. Mrs. Salazar was standing in the doorway. She was not angry. She looked tired, like she had been waiting for this night for many years. You look like her, she said. I held the notebook against my chest. Why is my mother's voice in this room? She stepped inside and closed the door. Because this house was built on it. Then she told me what she knew. My mother had worked in the house before I was born. She cleaned during the day and sang in the music room at night when no one was supposed to hear. Victor promised to help her record. But when City Morning became famous, another singer's name was on it. Victor's company owned everything. She signed? I whispered. Mrs. Salazar touched the yellow paper. I do not know. I only know she cried for 2 days and then disappeared from the city. My body felt cold. My mother had not failed at her dream. Someone had taken it from her. Mrs. Salazar gave me a small envelope. I kept copies because I was afraid of my husband. Then I was afraid of the truth. Inside the envelope were 3 tapes and 1 letter from my mother to Victor. Footsteps came fast in the hallway. Mrs. Salazar pushed the envelope into my apron pocket. Go through the back stairs. Now. I ran with the cloth still in my other hand. Downstairs, Victor was saying goodbye to guests. When he saw me, his eyes went to my apron pocket. "Anna," he said softly, "come to my office before you sleep." I did not go to his office. I went to my little room, locked the door, and called my mother. When I told her the name on the tape, she did not speak for a long time. Then she said, "Leave that house tonight." "Is the song yours?" I asked. My mother began to cry without sound. That answer was enough. At 2 in the morning, Clara knocked on my door. She held my suitcase and a black umbrella. "The back gate is open," she whispered. "I worked here when your mother worked here. I should have helped her then." Outside, the rain had stopped. The city street was empty and shining. I wanted to run and never look back. Instead, I went to a copy shop and copied every page Mrs. Salazar had given me. By sunrise, my mother was on the first bus from our town. When she saw me, she touched my hair first, like she had to make sure I was real. "I told myself those papers were gone," she said. "Did you sign them?" She looked toward the buses. "I signed something. But I did not sign away my name." We met a lawyer in a small office above a bakery. He listened to the tapes with headphones. When my mother's young voice filled the room, he removed the headphones and said, "This is not a small secret." That afternoon, Victor called me 17 times. Then a woman from his company called and offered money. She called it a gift. The lawyer called it fear. 3 days later, a radio host played 10 seconds of my mother's old recording on air and asked, "Who really wrote the song that built Salazar Music?" The city answered quickly. Reporters waited outside the white stone house. The iron gate stayed closed. People searched my mother's name. One old musician said he remembered a young cleaner singing after midnight. Mrs. Salazar left the house with 2 suitcases and did not cover her face from the cameras. Victor's lawyers denied everything. They said papers were signed. They said memories could lie. They said poor people often misunderstood contracts. My mother stood beside me and listened. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. "I was poor," she told one reporter, "but I knew my own song." The legal fight did not end in 1 week. It did not end like a movie. Some people believed us immediately. Others said we wanted money. At night, my mother told me about the day City Morning played on the radio in a stranger's voice. She was cleaning a hotel lobby and dropped a glass. "I turned off radios for 20 years, she said. But the song still found me in markets, taxis, weddings, everywhere." She did not say this like a lesson. She said it like a person naming a room she had been locked inside. 1 month later, the small music school that I used to watch from the sidewalk invited me inside. Not as a star. Not as a charity case. As a student with a story everyone wanted to hear. Before my first class, my mother gave me the silver necklace again. "Now you know why I said keep your voice safe," she said. I touched the microphone in the practice room. Behind the glass, my mother sat beside the lawyer, with the old tape on the table between them. The teacher asked what I wanted to sing. I looked at the tape. I looked at my mother. Then I said the name that made the whole room quiet. City Morning. Outside, the city kept moving. Buses cried. Shoes hurried. Windows watched. And for the first time, my mother's song was about to enter the city with the right name attached to it. Thank you for watching English Journey Adventures. Listen again for stronger English. Read the words. Repeat the lines. See you in the next journey.